Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit on Zappy here, back again with Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex Season 1. We're on episode 15, and in the last couple episodes, again, it's more just standalone stuff, so really, in terms of talking about what happened last time in regards to, it's going to continue on, it doesn't, because it's a standalone episode. So really, I don't need to talk about much. That being said, the last episode, it did end with something that could be considered a tie-in to the complex overarching story involving the Laughing Man and everything like that, because from what I recall, the whole case anyway was about a guy who was running basically like the stock market and everything like that. And obviously there was these the South Sea Mafia or something, or like the Chinese Mafia or whatever, had somebody like a hitman to basically take him out. Turns out he was already dead. But basically the end of the episode in the Togusa household, his wife was obviously doing stock market stuff, but the computer itself turned itself on and basically put stocks into Serrano, which is obviously that was the original corporation that the Laughing Man did his first sort of attack, I suppose, through. So yeah, there is that whole thing of it could be a tie-in, but it also could be a red herring, and it doesn't really mean anything. My theory was that I thought that the guy who died somehow is still around, in terms of, I don't know, he's just set his ghost off into something else, whether it's the entire system or what, and he's still doing it from even though he's supposed to be dead. Who knows? If it does turn back up though, then cool, but we'll just have to wait and see. The other thing that I didn't actually talk about as well was the currency that was the hitman or the hitwoman actually exchanged her money into, right? And she ended up using them as bullets, which they're referred to as yes currency, which I believe it's yen, euros, and dollars, right? So I don't know really the how that works in as per se, because the woman that was exchanging the money around, she was saying that it would be better to get it straight up in dollars, I believe. So therefore there's a, I guess just, as exchange rates work in our world as well, that, it's similar to that. But there's almost like a global currency that's just generally can be used anywhere. I imagine that's what it is, which is interesting. And I don't know if that'll pop back up again, but it's interesting, little tidbits of world building and everything like that, which, like I've said 1,000 times before, which is why I like the standalone episodes, because that's where you can get a lot of that. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about other than that. So we're going to get in episode 15 and see what we get. So if you do want to go watch your actual reaction, link is in the description below. There's also a link to the full length. If you do want to watch any of these reactions in full and not just the 10-minute version, then the link is in the description for you down there. But yeah, nothing else to really talk about. So we're going to get in episode 15 and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 15. Wow, well, yeah, I mean, I sort of called what was about to happen. I suppose it all comes back to that episode 12, I think. Yeah, episode 12, where there was a clear sort of mark where specifically that Bato's Tachikoma anyway went off and on an adventure and everything like that, and was starting to ask what's the meaning of death and everything like that. So it wasn't the cyber brain that connected to the theater, right, the cinema thing. It wasn't that triggered something in the system which caused them to sort of start becoming more individualistic or anything like that. It wasn't like a merging of two things. It was more this was bound to happen anyway. It seems like that's what they were talking about anyway, that this was always going to happen. It's just that I guess the natural oil and everything like that just kind of sped the process along for that one. But because they're all synchronized and they all have the same memories and everything like that, it's because that one was shown preferential treatment and kind of got sort of hoisted sort of out there first, and that one was starting to become more individualistic and ask questions. They all did. Interestingly enough, though, they all sort of picked up their own individualistic like natures and everything like that. Even though they all share that like that memory bank and everything like that they're synchronized. Yet they all have their like little quirks that they have. So you obviously got the one that like reads books and everything like that, you know. And then of course like Batos as well. The rest of them didn't seem to have anything really too like discernible in terms of like little quirks that they do have, but I'm pretty sure they do. And yeah, like I said during the action, it was interesting that I feel like the scenes that were just strictly the Tachikoma speaking to each other, it seems like they had different voice actors, which I don't think they had before. For the Tachikomas, I think they all had the same voice actor. But who knows? Who knows? Right. So yeah. So it seemed to have like started with obviously the whole abandoned city thing, and when it turned up, I was like, yeah, that's weird. That's odd. Where would that be? You know what I mean? But yeah, it turns out that it was just a sort of like a training exercise strictly for a sort of another sort of AI system that they were trying to I guess introduce to Section 9, which was the idea of a sniper that could sort of integrate with what the fuck is it, Saito, is that his name? It's because he doesn't show up often that I don't really remember his name a lot of the time. Saito, yeah. So they were trying to like integrate with him, but because the AI itself was sort of clashing with Saito and everything like that, it wasn't syncing up right, and therefore they just decided to sort of scrap that. But that was just the sort of the thing that sent the Tachikoma sort of into overdrive about them asking about like their own kind of death and if it would be considered death to them because they don't have a ghost. You know, and I like the whole analogy of Bato's Tachikoma basically talking about how you know, the existence of God and how what it would be considered would be the zero, but in terms of analog, you know what I mean, and digital. I like that like sort of analogy there because it's something that I would never have even like sort of considered, you know what I mean. I feel like the only time I've ever even like analog and digital have ever even like come up is the idea of something like a musical instrument or a clock, you know what I mean. But like in terms of like actually using them in like in this scenario, it makes sense in a world where there is humans and then there is like a mixture and then there's straight up just robots or androids. So yeah, that was a really cool analogy. The Tachikomas, man, like I guess yeah, it's just their slight the slight sort of ramp up and change of them becoming more individualistic over time was really well done. It was just enough that you could see them being like, it's like, they're a bit more chatty today or something like that, you know, and whatnot. Especially like, I guess when you're watching this through the first time, you kind of, I guess, subconsciously think of a standalone episode as like a bubble, so that there's not going to be any continuation really, but it actually does. And I think mostly it does affect, it's like it's the characters really, right? And the Tachikomas themselves are characters, so you know what I mean. It's just that like those little bits that just continue on throughout. And obviously, you know, the Tachikomas from, you know, episode 12. There may be like some very slight, minute things that you could possibly notice, like between like earlier episodes up until like episode 12. But who knows? I mean, I remember I can't remember if it was like episode 1 or 2 or whatever, but I remember Bato, like, you know, they clearly pointed out the whole natural oil thing like really early on, so that was already seeded for this to be a thing where it comes up, and Bato has his own one. the interesting thing is obviously Bato's relationship with him, because it's a thing that like that was also seeded early on, where he treats them like they're not, like, you know what I mean. He treats them as if they weren't just, you know, like androids or robots, like for that like made for a specific purpose of being weapons. And at least that's what like the Major considers them weapons. And that was obviously something she pointed out, which is why it is such a like. That's why it is such a bad idea. But that in of itself expands like knowledge. It gives knowledge to the viewer that that's something that they don't really integrate much into society. Then, like they'll not give like really smart AI that can learn and everything like that to an android that looks human, because of that whole, are you able to trust or are you not? I guess there's that whole thing of like humans anyway, like we, you know, when we're born and like we go through life, it's just like this kind of like innate thing that comes up when you see like a stranger that you meet for the first time, and it's like you're trying to gauge, are they trustworthy or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like trust is a big thing in life. So it's an interesting sort of topic, especially like in a world where there would be cybernetic, like, you know, the world's gone pure, like, you know, like it's full of cyber technology and everything like that, where you can, you know, you can be fully human like Tagusa, or you can be a mixture of the two, and then you can also have just straight up androids and robots and everything like that. But it's interesting that, like, you know, the Tachikomas were talking about that as like, well, what was the reason? Specifically the one with the books, the one that was obviously studying everything, that he was the one that I say he, it's like it's just like, I don't know, that one called out the idea of like, well, think about like why it is that we're this way and why we're not, we don't have individual looks, we all look exactly the same. But it's also like the reason why we're this shape and everything like that is because we're not meant to be humans, because people would probably hate us more. And due to it, like, that's just the thing, is like, that is something that obviously would be a like an issue as well. You know, it's just it's in human nature to just not, you know what I mean, like we're very wary, you know. And a lot of it comes from, like, you know, if you're a living creature, regardless if you're a human, animal, whatever the case is, right, it's all down to like a lot of it isn't just, you know, it can come down to nurture as well, but a lot of it is nature. So, you know, when you're born, you automatically have, you know, systems in place, natural systems in place that are you know, that they're there to, like, for like survival instinct and everything like that, right? And a lot of it can just be down to looking at something and, oh my god, like that one looks a bit shifty, like, because we as humans can be quite untrusting of other people. If there was ever a case of like androids where, you know, they're made to look like humans, so you can't really like, you know, you can't really see the difference, there would just be a sort of an, again, outcry, like just like a, people would not be happy, you know, because with that would come a hell of a lot of problems. That's the thing, isn't it, with humans, is that like we continue to like create and, you know, like continue on with like this just like on a train, just like of technology, and we're just making it as we go along and everything like that. But every time every time something like this would come up, it just creates new problems, everything like that, you know what I mean? Which, you know, but I mean, that's us as a species though. We're incredibly curious, and we kind of don't know where to stop. We don't know when to stop, you know. We don't know if we should stop. It's more or less like we just don't, because it's like that's what we are as a species. Like we there's a reason why we're the intelligent life on this planet, or why we even have that, we have our minds that work in that way to begin with, because we have the ability to just keep learning and asking, like trying to find answers to the questions that people don't know. And by doing that, the only way to do it is to just keep fucking, keep strolling on and keep doing it. But yeah, I mean, there would be a lot of stuff. I like, the Tachikoma's talking about like the whole thing that it wouldn't be considered like racist or speciesist, I guess, but it would be like, I don't know, machinist. I don't know. What would you call it? Like someone that's like you would have like an uproar of like, because I mean, even in the Ghost in the Shell world, where it's like you have these these groups and everything like that they just basically hate the whole like cybernetic thing, and they don't agree with it. So you would definitely have like those, but yeah, it would become a very it would be a hard time, put it that way. Like, I think what I like about the world of Ghost in the Shell is that it's very dark and grimy, and it feels like there's like it's like an underworld almost, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's so much more crime, because I feel like that's the way that it would go, you know what I mean? Like, if there was ever going to be a state of like a cyberpunk world where it was like a utopia, right? It would be like, I don't think that would be the case. The only way that would be the case is if you went through this stage, like the Ghost in the Shell world, where everything was like, like there was crime just absolutely rampant. The underworld would be like just, they would have so much influence in this in a world like this. They really would, because that whole thing of being connected to the system and everything like that, like people would just be able to bypass security systems so much more easier, you know what I mean? Like, and I just feel like information, I mean, we're already getting to that stage now. We're not in a cyberpunk world, are we? Right, us right now in this actually real world, but just getting, over the course of when the internet came in, which wasn't that fucking long ago, the more that we create in technology and everything like that, the faster it gets. You know what I mean? And like it's like, if you were to look at it as like like on a graph, it would, like, from the very start of human existence, right? Whenever we came into being, whenever we started, it would be like a flat line for a long time, and then all of a sudden it would like gradually start coming up, and then it would just shoot up. The further we go along, the faster and everything it takes to, like on that path, it may not be that long like away for like us to be in a world like this, like the Ghost in the Shell world. It may not be that long than you think. But yeah, what was my point? Oh my god, it's just, yeah, it was just an interesting episode where a lot of things became, I guess, relevant, with all of the Tachikomas talking about that stuff, because they were talking about it as somewhat like, almost as if they were new in that world. And obviously, with it only being episode 15, I'm still new in the world as well. So I guess for the viewer, this episode kind of is a good sort of, it gives you a good idea of what the world's like, because you're like looking at it through their eyes and what they're thinking about the whole thing. Of course, we have the whole, it's not far off our world anyway, is it? It's meant to be set in the real world, where it's just that time's a bit further on, and we're a hell of a lot more advanced. But yeah. Yeah, so what else? Yeah, I mean, the Tachikoma's doing the whole paradox thing with outsmarting the android, you know what I mean? And that was another thing as well, is that like those particular androids themselves are very like human, you know what I mean? I didn't know that they were human. They were androids, sorry, because I think that's the same model that got that got zapped and electrocuted the episode before. I think it was the last complex one, right? It was the one episode 11 where Togusa was in the sort of like asylum thing for the kids and all of that. There was because I think whoever the laughing man was, or Aoi, that kid, basically like shot it back through or something, and the woman that was on the thing basically got like electrocuted like in a back. I can't remember if that was episode 11. It was something like that, right? But yeah, who knows? So yeah, I didn't realize that they were androids. You know, I mean, I think that's the point that they were getting at as well, with obviously the being the humans and everything like that. I was like, you just don't know, you know. It would just cause so many problems if that was in like our world, you know. But yeah, like the whole paradox thing with the android, that was crazy. Like it just goes to show, I guess, ones that are programmed to be that way and not to think anything more, and then the AI that's able to learn and everything like that. It just shows you the sheer, like, you know, difference between the two. The Tachikomas were just able to outsmart her with a paradox about lying. And it's like when you have a paradox that you give a program that, it just wears itself out to the point where it doesn't know what to do. You know, so it just sort of, it's like what I would consider, like, if the android itself is thinking, oh yeah, that's right, what the Tachikoma is saying is true, but is it true if he says that, you know, yes, all I do is lie, but if I did lie, then the statement that I did say means that no, I don't always tell a lie. So basically what the android's doing is just going back and forth between those two, and it's basically talk, like like I can imagine, like in its own head, it's just like trying to figure it out. But every time it says the first thing, the second one, you know, the second thing comes up, and then you're back to square one again, and it just keeps doing that over and over and over and over and over again, and then it probably short circuits and that's it. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was basically outsmarting the android was cool. So yeah, the wanted to see Miki again. Yeah, that was the girl from episode 12. Yeah, so Bato's Tachikoma. That's an interesting one, right? So I guess we'll go back to Bato, right? So it's interesting that because the way that Bato sees these things, right? He has a different way of looking at them than anybody else, and that doesn't just go for the Tachikomas. I suppose he obviously has preferential treatment to the Tachikomas over, like, for example, the dog, the robot dogs that were in episode 14, right? But it's like he's got a different way of looking at them, but it's interesting that for Tachikomas that are supposed to be, you know, when they were made, right, they were basically like all of them exactly the same, right? All of them default, right? So it makes me wonder, like, why Bato chose one in particular that he likes to, the one that he consider, like, he always uses, right? But then what I thought is interesting as well is that was reciprocated by the Tachikoma. When Bato was calling the Tachikoma out to do the training and everything like that, it was like the one knew which one it was, right? Bato's Tachikoma knew that was the one. So, you know, but then that Tachikoma was like, oh, I guess it was me. But it's weird that because if they all have the same memories and everything like that, then why wouldn't any of the other ones be like, okay, and all come? You know what I mean? Which is something that's interesting. I've never really thought about that before. It's like, yeah, because they have mentioned before in previous episodes, like, oh, this is Bato's one, right? I'm sure they have anyway. And I don't know if that's like something that is similar with the Major. It may be, because I'm sure the Major went with the one to the docks where it got stuck, and then the Major was there a few episodes back or a couple episodes back with the same one that was saying, I hope I don't get stuck again, right? So it could be, but I don't know. because the way that the Major seems to look at them as they are, like, you know, they're robots with AI and their weapons, really. And I feel like that's the way that the Major sees them. There's no, like, you know, she doesn't really look at them in a light other than what they are, and doesn't treat them as such. I mean, I guess in a way, I don't think it's like it's not like an evil sort of thing from her point of view. You know what I mean? I feel like like she as a whole. Well, she's got other things that we haven't even like gotten into yet into the show, where, you know, like, I'm sure there's going to be backstory on her that things become apparent, right? And we get a lot of information regarding her, and maybe like why she feels about why she feels certain things about certain or why does she feel certain ways about certain things and everything like that. But also the fact that she's a Major, right? She's, you know, aside from Aramaki, like, she's up there and she's like, you know, in charge, and she can't, I guess she can't be too emotional in terms of how she goes about things, right? She needs to be pragmatic. So, you know, there's that. Bato wasn't happy, of course, but, like, you know, that's Bato for you. And yeah, I mean, at the end there, it was sad, kind of, because the Tachikomas, like, it's interesting because the Tachikomas, whilst they are so much smarter than the androids and everything like that, and so much smarter and individualistic than they were in previous episodes, everything like that, everything that they've learned, it's interesting that when they were obviously like spying in on the Major and Bato, that they had no reason to doubt the Major was like talking in code, right? Or basically changing it up. Because I don't know if the Tachikomas, I feel like they know that they can talk without speaking, right? Because I'm pretty sure the Major does that, like, with the Tachikomas sometimes. Like, I'm pretty sure she talks through her mind to the Tachikomas, so they know about it. But it's interesting that they never, like, they wouldn't consider that they were just putting it on, you know, because I feel like if it was a human with experience looking in, that they could possibly they could figure out that what they were talking about relates to them as well, because the way that the Major was, the fake sort of message that the Major was actually speaking out was not as like too far away from what she was actually saying. So everything that she was saying in regards to the training and everything like that, and everything, if you just change those words slightly with the Tachikomas and everything like that, it all means exactly the same thing. So it's interesting that because the Tachikomas don't have that experience and like in like, I guess, that sort of maybe like instinct, that they don't have any reason to doubt the Major is not talking about them, you know. But yeah, like, them being like, you know, it was a very like sort of bittersweet way to end the episode, because the Tachikomas were like so overjoyed, you know what I mean, that they were just like, you know, listening in because they're curious, you know, and that they're trying to sort of learn and everything like that, and it's not their fault. And you know, they were so overjoyed and everything, but they were like going to, you know, cheer up Bato, because that's what they thought that they were talking about, right? That Bato was getting you know, a verbal lashing to by the Major, and that's what they thought. So that, you know, they were just going to cheer up Bato, and then Bato was obviously looking in on them, and it's like, you realize that he can't, you know, he can't do anything. He's being given orders, and he's like, well, I guess I have to then. But clearly he wasn't happy about it. So, you know, I don't know. Again, it's a standalone episode, so I don't know how much will continue on after the fact. I don't know if, like, the next episode is a standalone as well, but we see, like, the Tachikomas being hauled off to the lab, the testing lab or whatever, to get, like, I mean, they're suspended, right? That's what the Major said, but I don't know if they're going to be, like, decommissioned and like scrapped. I don't think that's what it means. I think there could be a case where they just, you see, that's the thing as well, because it's, the Major was even saying like, or like Bato obviously gave the whole thing is like, well, can't we just like deadline it and start again? But then the Major was saying like, no, it's because like, this was always going to happen. So if we do it again, it's just going to happen again. Which, you know, I don't know. I like the Tachikomas. I don't want them to go. But again, it's like it's not their fault. This is something that happens in like, I feel like every single piece of media or story that's like revolving around where there are sentient AI. It's always them learning, and then it always becomes a case of like, well, because it obviously it always stems from humans creating AI, and then the AI overcomes like it's like it starts learning and everything like that, and then all of a sudden it gets to it starts trying to answer the existential questions, and it ends up becoming a problem, and it's always like, and then it's like the humans are always like, well, this is going to be bad. This could end up being like catastrophic. It's like it's a weapon. So the Major was obviously calling them weapons, and it's like, well, if that's what she's implying there, then that is that there could become a point where the Tachikomas like either know they're going to get scrapped, or they have an inkling that they're going to get scrapped, and then if they put that like, you know, if they have the whole thing of like, it's like, well, if we do get scrapped, that means that I can't move around, or I can't ask these questions anymore. So really, it's like I am dead because I'm not here anymore. And then all of a sudden it becomes a thing of like, I don't want to be scrapped, and then it becomes like a conflict, and then God knows what happens from there. You know what I mean? Because they don't have that sort of, they have those things to answer the questions and everything like that, but they don't get the, I don't think they get purely the meaning behind such things of death and everything like that. So even though they can consider it as like, I would die, I don't think they understand the importance or how precious that is. So therefore they would not like see the Major or Bato, for example, like killing them or fighting back against them in a way that like, I don't think they would consider it like, because they don't empathize or sympathize either, so they wouldn't be sad that they're gone, you know. So therefore it's like their life isn't as important, so it could spell disaster, really. So I get it from both points. Obviously I don't want the Tachikomas to go because I like them a lot, but I don't know how. I don't know, they may pop up where like Bato goes to see them or something, and they talk and whatnot, but they're not going to be on missions, are they? So, which is sad, because they're so helpful as well. Like they've been like in every single mission. They're so, this, you know what I mean? Like they're so good to have, but you know, I don't know. I suppose it's going to be interesting to see them more in guerrilla warfare kind of thing, like where it's a bit more primitive and not like just, you know, letting the Tachikomas and everything and like relying on them, but like letting the like actually Section 9 like going in and having like, you know, bit like going in like stealth mode and everything like that, which I like to see them do. But yeah, it's going to be sad because I don't know, I like them being, I don't know, I guess if there's a way to like keep them from going past a certain point. The problem is that you can't implement an AI, a learning AI, without them getting to that point. But I don't think they'd want to just program them either to be androids. Because I think that the reason why they have their specific AI system in place is because they're a weapon system that has to adapt, I think. Whereas an android can't do that. Like, it can't sit there and learn, you know, if it's out in the field in combat, it can't learn an experience, and like, you know, that, I mean, it can go into combat and everything like that, but I don't think it could grab that experience and use it to, like, use it in the next mission, the next, like, you know, combat that they go into, and everything like that. So I feel like that's the reason why they have that, like, the Tachikomas have that AI system within them. So it's like, I don't think you can just dead them off to, like, what they were, like, 5 episodes ago, you know. I don't know, because I like them at that stage. I mean, I still like them now. I'm just saying, like, at that stage, like, I wouldn't mind just having them like that, because they're not asking the questions and everything like that, but they can still stay around and be involved in all the missions and stuff. But it's like, I don't know how you could do that, you know? I don't think that's even... I don't even think that's remotely possible. Because even, like, they were even having trouble, like, putting in a punishment system and everything like that, and a warning system. Like, they couldn't even figure out how to do that. So, you know, because I guess they're just not at that stage in, you know, it's like going back to what I was talking about before. It's like they're in a time period where technology is so advanced, but because of that specific technology, it's like the underworld has risen up. So, you know, it's like if they haven't, it's like it put a sort of, it put on the brakes, I guess, in terms of technological advancement, maybe, because they were stuck in this, you know, they were stuck in this sort of place by, you know, the underworld rising up and everything like that. All of a sudden you have all these problems that you have to try and fix, and you're stuck at that point, whereas, you know, you can't, you need to put all your resources in trying to alleviate all of the problems that you made by getting to this point, and because of that you don't have the human resources to keep, you know, advancing technology and everything like that. So to get them past this point, which is interesting. I think that kind of goes back to, like, My Hero Academia, which, you know, it's not really a spoiler for those. It's just that in that world, in the My Hero world, they said that if humans hadn't, if heroes hadn't have actually come around, they could have been a spacefaring species or something like that. It's something quoted like that, where because the heroes and everything came around, it created problems that have to be solved first before you can even, you know, and it kind of put them in like a sort of a stagnant kind of stalemate kind of thing, where they just they don't advance, at least not as fast anyway. So I feel like that's a sort of similar situation as what's happening here. But yeah, I don't think I don't think I have anything else to talk about other than all that I've talked about. So yeah, it's definitely an interest. It was definitely an interesting episode. Like, I really enjoyed this one. You know, I mean, of course, the Tachikomas are my favorite anyway. You know, so I'll probably say that, like, that one. That's you see, I was gonna say, like, that's one. Yeah, I'd probably say. Yeah, I'd probably say this is my favorite standalone episode. But the complex episode was obviously the last one that we watched, so the Takusa going to the asylum and everything like that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Really good talk. So yeah, that's it. That's all I've got. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. In the description below, I've linked certain things. One of them is the Discord, so if you want to get yourself over there, then you can do. There's also a link to my Patreon as well, so if you do want to get access to, you know, videos and reactions, everything a week early, then you can do by becoming an early access tier patron. $5 a month gives you access to shows a week early. There's also the $10 for the full length. If you do want to watch any of the reactions in full, then obviously you can become a full length tier. And then there's the exclusive tier, which gives you access to my movie reactions and things like that when I start reacting to movies and everything like that. Okay, so you can go over there, see what they all offer. But that's all I've got, so thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.